Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity of Little Rock. I'm glad y'all are here on this wonderful rainy day. Welcome to y'all online. I see that Catherine is joining us and Linda. So welcome. Glad you're all here. I'm going to invite you to start with me this morning. Russ has hit technical issues this morning, and I feel that blood vessel that wants to pop. So join me in taking a big breath here. And relax and blowing that out. And seeing that magnificent rain that we're having here at this building. And that it's coming down and cleansing. Just like washing that pollen off our cars, that beautiful rain is moving through and cleansing. Sweeping away all that's not relevant, that's not needed, that's not the truth of who we are. And take another breath in and exhale that out. And now we can start this day. This is the last few days of the 8 days of Passover in the Jewish tradition. The story of Passover, for those of you that may not remember, it's about Moses, right? And Moses goes to the Pharaoh and basically says what? Let my people go. And what's the Pharaoh say? Nah, not gonna do it. So God brings 10 plagues on the people of Egypt. And that 10th plague is the killing of the firstborn child. But the Israelites, the Jews, mark their abodes so that God passes over them. And in that final plague, the Pharaoh releases the Jews from slavery and they move out of Egypt. Well, in present day, when you celebrate Passover, those first couple days are a Seder. And Seder is this wonderful 15-part feast in which you eat matzah and bitter herbs and the part I seem to be drawn to, 4 glasses of wine or grape juice, okay? As well as they read the story of that Exodus out of Egypt. But they don't read it as a story of the past. They're encouraged to read the story as their story for today. That they're on the exodus out of slavery, on the exodus out of the physical limitations in the world, and that they're moving into their spiritual potential. So today, I want to thank our Jewish friends for that imagery to me, that we are stepping out of those limitations, that slavery in our life, and embracing the fullness of the spiritual potential we are. And we honor that today with the lighting of the Christ candle. Because that's, to me, in the essence, it's reminding that potential that we are, that's our Christ that we are. And this candle is bringing us back to that awareness, back to the truth of who we are. Let's join in saying our opening statement. Together, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God, the good, the omnipotent. I'm not going to read our daily word today, but we're going to acknowledge this is the 100th year celebration of having daily word. This is the 134th year of our Silent Unity. So remember, Silent Unity has been praying for 134 years continuously. And you can call Silent Unity and they'll pray with you. But know that there's this wonderful little, we'll call it a tower on the grounds of the Unity Village in Silent Unity. And there's someone in that tower 24/7, 365 for 134 years that they've been praying. And they pray over the prayer requests that you put in this box, that we pray over here and then send on to Silent Unity. When you go online at unitylr.org, our website, and you put in a prayer request. We do the same thing. We pray over it, send it to them. When you go online and put a prayer request in writing, or you call them, all those prayer requests are then assembled and held for 30 days, and they pray continuously over and with your prayers. So today, we're going to acknowledge what the Daily Word says, because it says, in timeless silence, I renew myself. In timeless silence, I renew myself. And we're going to repeat that affirmation together. In timeless silence, I renew myself. Because we've come out of this wonderful season of rest, right? Winter. And now we're moving into spring, and the renewal has begun, right? With incredible flowers coming out. I saw a chipmunk in our wall out front this morning, and he made me smile.
That's a good sign.
Yes, it is. And so there's this wonderful renewal taking place as we move through spring and even heading into summer. There's renewal taking place. Now, so join me today as we move into prayer. Because remember, in prayer that we're affirming who we are, that divine nature we are. So we begin by saying that God is the fullness of existence, that the power and strength, the love, the compassion, the knowledge, the wisdom, all that is God. All that ever has been is God. All that ever will be is God. And that you and I are made in that image and likeness of God. And thus, I too have that same love and compassion and strength and knowledge and wisdom. I am the heart of God moving in the world. And if I'm moving in the world, then all that potential is mine. All the dreams and hopes that I have, all the needs and desires that I have, the answer is contained here within me. And I call on that need. I call on that desire. And in recognizing that, I know it is fulfilled. The healing I desire, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that healing is mine. The answer is here, now, within me, as me. My desire for relationships, my desire for meaning in my life, the right work, the right pay, the right home, all of that, we see that as whole and complete. The answer is already here. And it is fulfilled in our life. Even when the absence seems to be prevalent, the answer is here, now. And as I move in and through this season of renewal, my awareness, just like the Israelites coming out of Egypt, my awareness tells me that I'm letting go of that which has bound me. And I'm moving into the promised land. In this case, the promised land is me, the truth of my divine being, alive, breathing, right here, right now. And I'm grateful that I have this recognition, and that I have a community and a family that calls to me, that reminds me that how much I am that, and that my magnificence is loved and appreciated. And with that I say, it's so it is. Amen.
Amen.
So I'm going to take us into meditation today. I have no idea what my music is doing, so we're going to find out.
Okay, we have time.
We have time, yes. Well, we most certainly will, because my technical issues, I have left out lots of things, so there are many holes. So there's ample time. We have time, Betty, yes. So join me in meditation, if you will. And what's meditation? It's about relaxing the physical body, but relaxing the mind, and allowing that wellspring within us to bubble up and overflow. So take another one of those great breaths like we started with, and exhale it. And as you breathe in and out, you're letting go of all that does not serve you. You're setting it aside and just allowing yourself to be here, now, this time, this space. Just like in that springtime, when those magnificent buds begin to open. And as they do, you peel away that which has contained you. It can no longer restrict you. You can't be held back. And what is revealed but the blossom? Those magnificent colors, just like you, this magnificent being. And with it comes those incredible fragrances. Not only are you the sight to behold, but your essence moves out and permeates the world around you. And you have a purpose. Flower may be to pollinate so that more may be reproduced. But your purpose is yours. It's unique. It's your calling. For within you is this glorious calling that's reaching out. And that calling arises from the Christ, from that divine nature within you. And that voice is unique for you. Maybe a sound, maybe a feeling, a thought, an awareness. However it arises for you. It's arising now. And with clarity, it brings an awareness. And what is that awareness for you today? As we move to our music, just allow that awareness to rise. Continue to return yourself to that awareness. And allow it, just like that blossom, to continue to open. To continue to reveal its truth, its magnificence.
as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. I am a radiating center. I am a radiating center. I am a radiating center of love, Love one another as I have loved you. 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 I am a radiating center. I am a radiating center. I am a radiating center of love, love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you.
And as you're ready here, I invite you to return your awareness to your bottom in your seat, to the noise and sounds, familiar surroundings here in this room. When you're comfortable, open your eyes. Travis, would you turn that off, please? Thank you. So, that was not the mellow song I was looking for, but it worked for me.
It was perfect. Thank you.
Because in some ways, it fits where I was going today.
I've done that always. Oh,
No, I've had a week, as the saying goes.
Yeah.
I've had a couple weeks. And mainly those weeks have just been filled with people that have been in need, have been struggling, been strife. in pain, suffering, if you will. Someone go back off my volume a little, please, and see if we can get rid of some of this buzz. Thank you, Gene. So I experienced people that in some ways needed other people in their life, needed to be surrounded by people that just let them know that they were loved and they were cared about, and that they were supported. Sometimes listening to them, sometimes they needed somebody to do some stuff for them, but they just needed someone to be with them. And that made me think about the fact that there were many choices that had taken place in all these lives, including my own, that got me where I'm at, here, now. And those choices are powerful choices, because each choice shapes where we go and what unfolds in the next moment. And you and I are sometimes told that our choices have consequences, right? And usually when they're telling us that, they mean our choices have some negative consequences for us. But our choices also have some very positive consequences. It can be wise choices, right? That can lead us into wonderful consequences of that choice. And I think about coming into a community, and here in a community, people show up here all the time that are hurting. They come here for hope and help, and they wonder what they're going to find here sometimes. Even y'all that have been here, some of you for years, decades even. You have your stretches that you come in here and that you want help, you want hope. Because life has thrown you that wonderful curve, right? It has touched you in a way that you feel the pain of it. Because life isn't always about feeling those warm fuzzies, is it? Is it? No, sometimes we don't, right? So we all want a place that we can come, that we get inspired, that we touch, that we see hope when we feel hopelessness, and that we feel like someone's helping us in a way that makes a difference in our lives. So our choices, as they unfold for us, they shape us. And that's true of a community as well. Our choices unfold and they take us somewhere. Okay? And it can be somewhere that we really like or somewhere we're not so excited about. Okay? But nonetheless, it took us somewhere. And what's the beauty about the power of choices?
Freedom.
Freedom. You can always make another choice, right? So if you don't like what you're getting right now, make another choice. Do something different. Now, our choices too, talk about here in unity, our choices too are based on our remembrance of who we are, right? Now, of course, we can get lost and forget who we are. We get caught up in those things that we're hurting around in our lives. But we want to keep remembering and returning to that, and that's part of what we do in the community. I've been reading a book. That book is called Holy Moments, and it's by Matthew Kelly. And I've liked it well enough that I've got you all a copy back here on the back table. Okay? Because Matthew talks about that we get to make a choice in the moment, right? And then he calls those holy moments. Matter of fact, he tells us that See if I can read it here for you. He says that when he was 15 years old was the first time that he recognized a holy moment. And he said that holy moment was after he was coming home from being with a spiritual mentor that inspired him and challenged him. And said he was just walking along and just got this incredible revelation that sometimes some moments are holy and some moments are unholy, and our choices guide us whether they're holy or unholy. Okay? So what's a holy moment? Let's see here. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, he says that of holy is wholeness in spirit, mind, and body. It's an awareness of the all-pervading glory of God, or an all-pervading realization of divine unity. Holy is the blending and merging of man's minds, of your and my mind, with God's mind. And then the dictionary says of a moment. A moment's what? It's a little period of time or now. So, to me, a holy moment is the realization of divine unity now. It's recognizing that God and I are one now. That's a holy moment. So, Kelly, our author, takes that another step. So I had all this on slides for you, but now I'm having to find it for you to be able to read it for you. Well, I guess I'm not going to find it. Oh, here we go. Matthew says that a holy moment is a single moment in which you open yourself to God. You set aside personal preferences and self-interest. And for one moment, you do what you prayerfully believe God is calling you to do. So he says that it's really just a single moment. It didn't have to be all day, all year, a lifetime. It's a single moment. And you set aside those personal preferences you have, those opinions they have about that shirt, Travis. Whatever that opinion might be, I set those aside. Okay? And then for one moment, I prayerfully, in Unity we would say affirmative prayer, right? So it's recognizing that divine from that place of being centered in my divine nature, my Christ nature. Now I respond to what's arising within me, that which is calling to me. Because there's something always, for me, calling within us. We like to talk that God is principle and that it's neither good nor bad. Beverly, in the last few weeks, is talking to us about that God isn't good unless we make a choice to make God good, right? God is neutral. But in that choice, we get to decide that. We get to make it holy or unholy in our lives. And so our holy moment is about us recognizing that God and I are one now. But it's more than that. Because holy moments make you happy. So how do they make you happy? Holy moments can also be that you're recognizing and acting on that calling. And that calling can be what? That holy moment can be when you smile at somebody. That holy moment can be when you go over and cut your neighbor's grass that broke their leg yesterday. Okay? Your holy moment can be when you recognize there's a need and that you feel it. And that arose within you. And you didn't do it out of, oh, I got to. It's necessity. And it wasn't, I'm going to, had a conversation with someone talking about they wanted to go take my neighbor's flags down because they didn't like the political comment that was being made on those flags. And he was saying they were tattered. So he could go take them down because they were tattered. It's like, well, it's not quite a holy moment, is it? Because that's got a whole lot of your own prejudice and dangerous. Yeah, we didn't even go there. We didn't even go there, Betty. But that wasn't a holy moment. That wasn't, I'm going to do something good for this person. It's what arises within us. So holy moments actually make us happy because we're being generous of ourselves. You know, science tells us that when we're generous, when we act out of generosity, that we have more peace, more calm, we feel more at ease. We know that we produce, what are they? We produce serotonin, dopamine, we produce all those wonderful hormones that just make us go, that happens out of the act of generosity. So when we act out of a holy moment and that generosity, we feel better. It touches us. It touches us and takes us maybe out of our own hopelessness, because we arise in that same happiness in that moment. But also it takes us out of passiveness. We become active. You know, that's one of the principles of unity, isn't it? It's not enough for us just to know this stuff. We need to go act upon it, take it into the world. So a holy moment is that moment in which it impacts us, but it's when it impacts others. And to me, that's the core of a spiritual community. And here we are in spiritual community. Y'all ask me sometimes, you know, how do we make this community grow? What do we do? I'm going to read you a story here in a minute. And I promise you, from Russ's point of view, it tells us exactly what to do. But it's those holy moments that are integral in that. If I come here and I'm hopeless and hurt and I'm looking for hope and help, then I want you to help me. And how do you help me? Maybe you should just put your hand on my shoulder and you listen to my story. Maybe you help get me a lunch today so I eat, because I've been caught up, I have so much I have forgotten to eat. Right? There are many ways that you can step in and be with someone and bring that holy moment into their life so that maybe you can help things settle down enough that they can have their own holy moment. And to me, that's what we do as a spiritual community. Sunday's wonderful, but Sunday is what a spiritual community is. It's about having those holy moments with each other when we need to have them with each other, and when we don't need to have them. We just want to be with each other and meet that. So I'm going to read a story here. This story is long, okay? And I'll read it a little and I'll tell it a little, okay? So sit back, get your booty comfortable, because this is a once upon a time story. And it's about a monastery deep in the forest. And it's full of monks, and life and excitement and joy, and it attracts visitors just because they love coming to the monastery. And one day a young woman asked the abbot of the monastery, what are people doing when they come to the monastery? What are they looking for? And the abbot says, most come looking for answers to their questions. And the young man was curious about what kinds of questions. And the abbot responded, they come seeking answers to the same questions all men and women ponder. What should I do with my life? Am I wasting my life? Where do I find meaning? How do I get the most out of life? And the young man had traveled long and far to get to the monastery, and the abbot wondered what his questions are. What's he wrestling with in his life? But as time went by, time passed, things started to change. It was slow, gradual at first. But a couple of the monks became cranky, started not being quite as kind with one another. They closed their hearts to each other. They got jealous. The visitors seemed to like this monk more than they liked me. And they started to argue more. They started not to work in unison together. They started to argue, gossip about each other. And the visitors took notice. They started to notice that things just don't seem to be as shiny, as bright, as lovely here as they used to be. The visitors noticed that the monks weren't seeming to be as kind to one another. And they seemed to be short-tempered with the visitors, even. And the seasons came and they went until one day the people stopped coming. And the abbot started rising every morning an hour before their morning prayers so that he could sit in prayer personally and ask the questions for himself about, what do I do here? How do we change this? How do we make a difference here? And it touched his heart because he cared and loved about what had been taking place, his family that was here in this monastery, and the people that came and were part of this experience. Because for hundreds of years, people had come to this monastery. And it had thrived, but it wasn't thriving anymore. So on the first day of spring of this year, the abbot gathered in the chapel with all the other monks, and he told them, I'm going to take a journey today. They went, journey? Where are you going? He said, I'm going to go visit the hermit in the mountains. I'm going to seek his wisdom, because this hermit was known for being the provider of wisdom, the answerer of questions. And they asked, well, when are you going to be back? He said, should be 3 days. Well, who's going to be in charge when I leave? He said, well, y'all decide that among yourselves. And before his echoes of his voices had fallen away off the wonderful stone walls of the monastery, the monks were going at each other about who was going to be in charge. And as the monks started to go out the door, you remember that there would have been a time that the monks would have been concerned, because he's an elderly abbot, about making this journey. And even some of them would have offered to go with him, but not today. And as he began making this trek up the mountain, he noticed the anxiety, the tension that he was feeling, the hurt in his heart. But as he walked, he noticed that becoming more relaxed, more at ease. And he reached a point in the trail where he stopped for the night, and he built a fire, and he ate a little cheese, drank a little wine, and he fell asleep. And he woke to the sounds of the parrots and the wolves in the night, and he could feel that incredible tension and anxiety. But he wasn't afraid. And as he rose the next morning and moved on, he could feel it was just lighter. He felt better than he'd felt in years. And he reached his friend, the hermit, because he had known this hermit all his life. And the hermit was standing outside of his cave going, I've been waiting for you. And the abbot said, I've got questions for you. The hermit said, I know, later. Come on, take a walk with me. And they started walking through the woods. And it didn't take them very long, and they came up on this beautiful, magnificent lake. And the abbot sat up on a boulder by the lake, and the hermit sat with him. Both of them were sitting there, and they naturally fell into a quiet space. And the abbot was looking out at this lake, glass, just still and calm, just magnificent. And after they'd been there for an hour, just sitting, soaking in, relaxing, meditating, opens his mouth and says, "A still pond reflects the sun perfectly. God is the sun. You are the lake. When your soul is still and clear, you reflect the truth, the beauty, and the goodness of God to everyone you encounter. And as the day goes on, the wind will pick up, the lake will be full of ripples, and you will barely be able to see the sun's reflection in the water." In a few minutes, the hermit gets up, the abbot joins him, and they walk back to the cave and they start drinking tea. And the abbot starts telling him. He tells everything that's taken place in the monastery, all that's transpired through the years. And the hermit listens, asks a few questions, and then finally asks one last question. "What have you come here to ask?" And the abbot responds, "What wisdom do you have for us? How do we rejuvenate the monastery? How can we best serve the people who come to visit?" And the hermit, being a wise hermit, went, "Well, that's 3 questions, but I'm going to give you one answer to those 3 questions. And that is, go back and tell the brother the Messiah is among you." And with that, the hermit closed his eyes and fell into deep meditation. And the abbot didn't really feel like he had much option. It was time to go. So he got up and headed back down the mountain, a little confused by what that meant. But he felt as each step as he moved down the mountain, he deepened his understanding and he got clarity about what that statement that the hermit had said to him meant. And as he reached the monastery, the brothers were out thinking that he was a visitor, said, "Oh, we got a visitor coming." But then they realized it was the abbot. And they realized too that they had been talking about, that it was now 5 days instead of 3 days since he left. And they had all been wondering maybe he was dead or maybe he'd just run off because of how hard things were in the monastery. But saw that he was returning and he told them, "Gather everyone in the chapel. I have something to tell you." And when they gathered in the chapel, he told them the entire story of what he'd done with the hermit, what they had talked about, and what questions he had asked, right? And the response that had been given, that was to go back and tell the brothers the Messiah is among you. And when he said that, the monks were just astonished. What could that possibly mean for them? But as the days continued, the monks started wondering, well, if the Messiah is among us, who is it? Is it Roger? Is it Chris? Is it Betty? Is it Pam? Travis? Lorraine? Angel? Jeannie? Linda? Catherine? Who is that? And they started treating each other a little more kindly, a little more compassionately. And they started to laugh together. And they started to work together in more unison. And they started recognizing that they were just happier than they'd been in a long time. And the people started to return. And when they returned, a woman one day came and said, what happened here? It was a transformation. What did y'all change here? And said, well, nothing changed here. It was the monks that changed. And in that question arose the understanding that they were there as a monastery and as monks to be the best. In some ways to bring those holy moments forward. But also to touch the lives around them, the people. And it touched the people so much that a town now, after hundreds of years, grew up around the monastery. And the people loved the monks, and the monks loved the people in the town. And it grew and it thrived. And finally one day, that next person came. And she asked, what took place here? I know y'all changed. Something of the monks changed. I can see it. And the abbot told her, well, because we decided to look at each other and recognize that that the Messiah is among us. And she started to cry, and being the abbot, he put his arm around her and listened to her tell her story, her life, her struggles, her strife. And then he asked, what advice would you like? And she told him what she wanted the answer to. And of course, what was his answer?
Messiah.
He said, go into the world and see that the Messiah is among you. Matter of fact, that the living, reborn Jesus Christ is now among you. And see each person as that living expression of the Messiah. I tell you that story because to me that's a story of holy moments. It's recognizing your own place in the universe and allowing through your own choices and preferences that we all have, that there's a calling, there's something within us that wants to be expressed, and taking that expression into the world in our generosity. And when we do that, we shape our life. When people come here in this community that are looking for hope and help, when you are that example of that holy moment, that generosity touches them, then they're reminded of hope. And they're reminded of that generosity. And their lives are touched in a way that they want to come back to this place. They want to be a part of that. Just like the visitors that returned to the monastery. They wanted to be a part of that joy, that experience they were having, that the monks were having, that they wanted to have. So we as a community must recognize that Sunday morning is more than ample to simply come and learn something. But a spiritual community, to be more, is to be more of those holy, also one another outside these walls. Spiritual community steps out into the city and loves the city, and how we feel guided and led to do that. I still hold a great vision for Unity of Louisville. I haven't given up on that vision. In the weeks to come, we'll get more opportunities to explore what you see and what you want for Unity of Louisville. We're going to ask that of you so that you can help us hold this vision and help us see where those holy moments want to unfold for us here. So with that, I'm going to invite you, as Beverly likes to give us homework, I've got a little homework for us, and that is, what's it take for you to give that holy moment today? So, let me remind you. It's a single moment in which you open yourself to God. You set aside personal preference and self-interest, and for one moment, you do what is prayerfully believe God is calling you to do? How do you reach that prayerful place? About prayer, about meditation, about stepping into the stillness, so that you can go each day and recognize where your holy moment is. The holy moment for you personally, but the holy moment for someone else in your world. Whether it's that stranger you smile at, that neighbor that you provide something for, do something for, care for. So for our next week, recognizing those holy moments and being that holy moment in the world. I'm going to take us to another prayer, if you'll join me in that, please. Because we're affirming. Affirming is claiming that which is true. And that is the abundance that is in this life. All that we can hope and dream for. That is available here, now. And in that God mind is volume, abundance, prosperity. Anything and everything that we can imagine is filled up and overflowing. It's more than we could ever possibly use. And it's available for us now. And we reach just like we're reaching our hand in to that washdove, moving through those wonderful waters of life, of our divine self, and we're latching on to that abundance, that prosperity, and we're bringing it out. And as we bring it out, we release it. Whatever it is that we desire, we're now claiming in our life. Maybe that's the joy. Maybe that's the companionship. Maybe that's the job. Maybe that's the money, the house. But maybe it's the love, the heart, the generosity, the kindness. All of that is now released in that abundance and prosperity. It's expanding forth. It's expanding forth within us because that's its origin. It's a rising of the Christ that is us. And as it moves forth and moves out, it touches this community of Unity of Little Rock. And it spreads out of these walls, down these roads, and moves over the city, and it cannot be stopped. That joyous abundance and prosperity, it flows forth. And those images, those visions, that imagination, those hopes and those dreams are loosed. They're now unfolding. We have claimed this holy moment as ours. We claim it because we have the right to claim it. We are worthy. We are beautiful and magnificent. And the heart that beats in us is the heart of God. And we claim that for ourselves, for Unity of Little Rock, and for this world. And we say thank you. Thank you to all that is. Thank you that we have the awareness of this. Thank you that we have a community that loves on us and reminds us of those holy moments. And so it is. Amen. So this is our opportunity to give. I know that some of you may have given